Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Boozer. I'm with CUGC HQ, and I'm happy to welcome you to today's CUGC Connect webinar. I see that we've got a good number of people coming in, so I know I want to give you guys a minute to settle in and get everybody ready. So while we're doing that, I will remind everyone that if you haven't been to CUGC.org, it would be a great time for you to go out there and check out all of our local user groups. If you're not a member of your local group, we have local groups all around the world and over, I think, now at 75 locations all around the world. So go online, find your local group, find your next local meeting. They're great places to meet other Citrix people like yourselves and get involved and find out about what's going on. So encourage you all to go and do that and see what's up. All right, so today we have IGEL with us. They're going to be talking about making Windows 10 and Endpoint Cloud migration easier with Citrix and IGEL. And I know you guys are eager to hear what they have to say. So before we get to that, I do have a couple of housekeeping details for you. Today's webinar is being recorded. You will receive a link to the recording. It'll come to you in an email from GoToWebinar, so be on the lookout for that tomorrow. You're also able to submit your questions. We'd like you to do that at any time throughout the presentation today. Just type those in the question box. We don't want you to forget them, so go ahead and type them in as you have them. And then we're going to save all the questions for the end. That's why I want you to go ahead and type them in so you don't forget. And also, just to let you know, we'll be sending out a link at the end of the webinar to a quick little survey. It's anonymous, it's very short, and it's for CUGC use only. We just like to get your feedback on all of our webinars, so I'll be sending that along. All right, so keeping an eye on all of those questions for us is Steve Elgin. Steve is the Vice President of our CUGC Steering Committee. He is Omaha CUGC leader, and he is a CTA. You can find him on Twitter at @selgin. Steve, you want to say hello to everyone?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I look forward to moderating this webinar, learning more about IGEL products.
Thank you, Steve. So like I said, he's going to keep an eye on the questions for us, so do type those in as you have them. And with us from IGEL today is Dan O'Farrell. He is the Senior Director of Product Marketing at IGEL, and you can also find him on Twitter at Dan_O'Farrell. And with that, I'm going to hand things straight over to Dan to take it away. So Dan, let me send you the screen. And it should be coming your way right now.
Great. All right, thanks, Stephanie, and hello, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about IGEL and Citrix and how we together as a combined solution can make the migration to Windows 10. And then after the migration, the management of Windows 10 desktops much easier. A little bit about myself before we go into the details. I run the product marketing function at IGEL. Been with the company for about a year now, and we've seen this tremendous growth and change in just that short period of time. As more and more companies are looking to kind of unify and standardize the management and control of their endpoint user devices, right? And when you think about these endpoints, think about anything that has an asset tag on it, right? So if you work for a company and you're using a laptop furnished by the company, it probably has an asset tag on it. And what that means is that's not your laptop, that's the company's laptop. And the data on there is not your data, it's the company's data. So a lot of organizations, especially places like healthcare and banking, education, retail, et cetera, they're looking to make sure that their people have all kinds of ability to access their needed apps and workspaces to get their job done, and the freedom to do that from anywhere. But they also have to maintain control over what people can do, and perhaps more importantly, what people cannot do. And that's why a lot of companies are moving to this model, working with the likes of IGEL, give their people the ability to get their jobs done, but at the same time having control over the company asset, the endpoint, and the information that resides on it. So, who are we? And you've probably heard of IGEL. You may have heard of us as a quote-unquote client company. We're really more focused on the software because it turns out that we can convert any x86 device into an IGEL-powered endpoint. So it doesn't have to be like a classic thin client type of device. So really, we position ourselves now as the next-gen Edge OS for cloud workspaces. And those cloud workspaces can be in the form of hosted applications, BDI, services, desktop as a service from the likes of AWS or Azure, any kind of environment where you are accessing virtualized applications, virtual desktops, or cloud workspaces. We work very closely with Citrix to make sure that that's a really satisfying and fruitful experience for the user, while at the same time enabling the management that the company itself requires. So again, I did mention, thin client. That's how IGEL established itself as a hardware company. And by the way, we still build these cool little endpoint devices, convection cooled, super secure, stateless endpoints. And we've got a new model coming out actually in a couple months. But the emphasis really is on the software, because as with any product, it's software that really defines the distinguishing value. And specifically with IGEL, we're famous for making it easy, as Citrix is, by the way, right? So we're famous for our management interface, which makes it so easy to manage and control from just a few to tens of thousands up to 100,000 endpoints. So we're not just a hardware provider. In fact, we're the fastest growing software company in end user computing, with all kinds of impressive numbers here that we continue to every quarter. We basically crush the numbers that had been set the previous quarter. So it's fun to be on this kind of aggressive upward growth curve. We've been hiring like crazy over the last 3 or 4 quarters, and that's good, right? That's encouraging for all of us who work for IGEL. More importantly, it's giving our customers, along with Citrix, a solution that they see great value in, right, to manage and protect and control their estate of endpoint devices. As I said, we're the fastest growing company in end user computing, and most of the deals, like over 90% of our top deals, are Citrix based. That's really important to understand. Citrix is by far our closest partner within this ecosystem of providing end-to-end virtualized applications, desktops, and cloud workspaces. So not only are these numbers a reflection on the rapid growth and success of IGEL, especially in North America in terms of market share, but it's also a tribute to the way we work with Citrix and the assist that we get from those who are looking for a Citrix-based solution. A little bit about how we started. It's funny. I've worked in Silicon Valley for over 20 years, and at one point I did work for HP, and HP always loves to tell the story of how Bill and Dave, Hewlett and Packard, started the company in a little garage outside a house in Palo Alto, and then likewise, Michael Dell started his company in his dorm room at the University of Texas in Austin. Well, not unlike that, IGEL started as a small company in the attic of a parent company called Melchers in a town called Bremen, Germany. And Heiko Gloga, who's the gentleman on the right, was the original CEO and still is. In the beginning of the company, they actually started the engineering team in a town called Augsburg, outside of Munich. It's about an hour drive outside of Munich. Of course, that's at Autobahn speed. So in the US, it's probably about an hour and 20 minutes. But they also started up in the attic, where those dormer windows are. That's where these 3 engineers started working on the software, which ended up really distinguishing us. And by the way, those 3 guys still work for the company, which is a tribute because 20 years ago. Now we've grown. We have a U.S. headquarters that works underneath the parent organization, which is headquartered in Germany. And we are kind of in the shadow of the Salesforce tower, which is what we're looking at in the foreground. And I think it's worth noting that, you know, if someone grabbed a photo of San Francisco skyline 8 to 10 years ago, maybe 5 to 8 years ago, the signature building was the Transamerica Tower, right? That pyramid building. You have to look back toward the left, kind of like a third of the way across this photo. Toward the left, you'll see the top of the Transamerica Tower. And this is pretty symbolic. I mean, this is what the cloud has done. It's actually reshaping skylines, because now the biggest towers in San Francisco are the Salesforce Tower and the LinkedIn building. And guess what? They're all about the cloud. So we're really positioning ourselves in our software as a great on-ramp with Citrix to access all of these emerging cloud-based. We happen to be in an attic in San Francisco. We're on the top floor, which was the attic of a shared workplace building in San Francisco. So I guess we're staying true to the attic. At IGEL, we believe that there are three great things, right? Three things that define a great company. Number one is the people, and let's face it, every place we all work, you know, the boss will get up there and say, we've got the best people, right? I mean, that's a common thing. What's pretty fortunate about IGEL is that we've collected a lot of people who have great experience in end user computing and in VDI and you know, the delivery of virtualized applications. So we've hired a lot of people from the likes of Wise, Dell, HP, Lenovo, and other companies, channel companies, technology companies, who have all been part of this ecosystem for many years. So we've built a very, very strong team of folks who have a lot of experience in kind of optimizing kind of the end user computing environment for people. The story is all about management control. This is your IT director. Your IT director who manages the endpoints is concerned, and he's concerned about capital savings, right? This person is concerned about the fact that every 3 or 4 years they have to do a hardware refresh on all those endpoints, right? Because let's face it, Windows keeps getting bigger and fatter. You need faster Intel chips to drive them, and you then need a new PC or laptop from Dell or Lenovo or HP. So it's this cycle that goes on every 3 or 4 years, and people have just accepted it as a part of life. Every 3 or 4 years, we're going to have to disrupt everybody's productivity and furnish people with a bunch of new machines. That's very expensive. We can help alleviate that. Operationally, then, it takes a lot to stand up all those machines. It takes a lot of work and effort and a team to manage them. You know, you're downloading profiles and policies from Active Directory. You want to make sure that the right people have the right image on their endpoints. And that is a very tedious ongoing task. We can help in that area. And then finally, everybody's concerned about security. And it's our strong belief, and it's consistent with Citrix, that the best way to do that is move Windows off of the endpoints, place Windows in the secure data center, where, by the way, you have things like automatic backup and fault tolerance already designed in for all those virtual desktops, and take it off the endpoints. You take Windows off your endpoints, you relieve a huge burden from IT, because they no longer have to worry about all the antivirus signatures and all the security measures, and you know, some of this is behavioral based and pattern matching and all that kind of software. Just load Linux-based IGEL OS on your endpoints, and we can help amazingly with security. Now we innovate to make sure that the people, right, your people who are your employees who have these asset tagged devices are happy. They can get their job done, they can get their work done no matter where they're located. And Citrix is famous for that. I mean, that's what really prompted the first wave of popularity. The Citrix figured out a way to enable people to work from a centralized repository of applications from any place. We work well with
Dan.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Occasionally your audio is getting a little bit choppy. Like it goes in and out, and sometimes it sounds fine. So I just didn't know if there was something we could tweak really quickly.
Let's see. I'm connected via an Ethernet cable. What I could do is I can pull that out and just use Wi-Fi, which is also in my location. Let's try that and interrupt again if it happens again.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So give me like a second or two. It'll flip over to the Wi-Fi. 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. So how do I sound? How do I sound?
I think okay. Yeah.
All right. If it sounds choppy again, just let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. So we work with a large group of companies as technology partners with whom we integrate their software with our operating system called IGEL OS. And obviously, in this case, Citrix is a key one. Again, I said over 90% of the deals that we win are Citrix-based environments. But you look at all these different companies on here, whether it's an interface to a printer or it's dictation software, or it's drivers for a high fidelity user experience, or it's security software or unified communications. This is only a small snapshot, right? Because it's over 80 companies with whom we have integrated their technology so that when you stand up an IGEL powered endpoint, it immediately supports the very latest version of software and interfaces and drivers from these companies, right? Because without this ecosystem, you don't have an end-to-end solution. So our partners are critical to our success. The one nice thing about IGEL OS is that it's very rapidly updated on a quarterly basis. So we stay current with the very latest versions of, for example, the Citrix Workspace app. As when those latest versions come out, within the blink of an eye, they're also supported by IGEL OS. Our message is really simple. Simple, smart, and secure. Easy to manage. Secure your enterprise. And a lot of this is evidenced by our user interface, which is pretty famous for its ease of use and simplicity. Anybody who has ever worked in a Windows-based environment, and if you've got anybody who's done any work on Active Directory or a classic kind of a nested Windows environment, immediately can start being very productive on this interface. Super easy to use, and that's always been the goal from day one, to make it simple and smart and secure.
Hey, Dan, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I think now there's an echo. So I guess go back to Ethernet. I'm so sorry.
How's that?
Yeah, we'll stick with that.
All right, I really apologize for this. I'm not quite sure what's going on. But,
It's the challenges of live TV. That's what I always say.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll make sure I get this fixed. But, and by the way, please continue to interrupt if it starts to sound kind of weird. Okay, Synergy. It's our most important event of the year. We were there this year, of course, as a high level sponsor. We're involved in all kinds of activities at the event. We support the intelligent workspace from Citrix. And, you know, again, I can't emphasize how important this partnership is for IGEL in our success. And guess what? The messaging is alarmingly similar, isn't it? Simple, smart, and secure. So our vision is, you know, we see things moving to the cloud. We see a world where people need to access their work from anywhere, whether it's, you know, from the bank or a hospital or a coffee shop or home. The world is moving toward the cloud, and we see our software, since it can run on any compatible endpoint, as ideal for secure and simple access to cloud-based workspaces. And we're really all about supporting the hypermobile user. Everybody on this call, I'm sure, has their laptop, they've got their smartphone, they travel, they can do their work from anywhere, and we want to make sure that we can help support that along with Citrix. The challenge is also is that as new people enter the workforce, they grow up in a world that is all about cloud. This kid plays in the cloud, he shops in the cloud, that's where he got the sweatshirt, he socializes with his buddies in the cloud, he expects to work in the cloud. When this kid graduates from university, he is going to expect that everything he's used to this point in terms of how he gets things done is not just going to not change, it'll get even better. And millennials and younger will comprise 70% of the workforce by the year 2025. So here's the challenge, right? If we've got all these people who demand to be mobile, who in fact require it to be able to work and play and live as they're already used to, then how is the IT director going to be able to manage and control who can do what based on their role in the company and based on the type of devices that they use? That's a challenge. We believe part of the answer to that challenge is Linux on the endpoint. Even Microsoft now says they love Linux because they see what's happening. And with the announcement of Windows Virtual Desktop, they've also announced that IGEL is the first preferred chosen vendor to provide endpoint operating systems for access to Windows Virtual Desktop service, right? So Linux has actually emerged as the OS of choice on endpoints accessing virtualized apps, workspaces, desktops. In fact, the tipping point was in 2018, last year, where more endpoints accessing these types of virtualized services were running on Linux and not Windows. And it kind of makes sense, right? Because if I'm moving Windows to the data center or cloud, why access it with Windows? I mean, the reason you're moving Windows to the cloud or the data center is to be more secure, to not have to deal with the hassle of managing Windows on hundreds or thousands, tens of thousands of endpoints. So it's kind of, it doesn't make sense then to continue using Windows on all those endpoints. And that's exactly what's happened. So really what's gone on, and here's where we fit, is we take our Linux-based operating system called IGEL OS, we put it on all the endpoints that belong to these people at the bottom, whether they're at home or office or anywhere, because now they take their device anywhere using Citrix. And we manage it from a centralized place, or that manager can be remotely connected. And now you have access to all these cloud-based services, all these mobile users, and you can unify the management of all those devices onto a single platform. So these devices running Linux OS, they can be HP endpoints, PCs. They could be Lenovo laptops. They could be Dell Wise thin clients. It doesn't matter. And think about merger and acquisition, right? I mean, there were over 1,100 merger and acquisitions last year just in healthcare. When you have M&A activity and you've got people with endpoints from different vendors, if you want to make that as painless and as simple and as fast as possible during that M&A transaction to get everybody productive and online and managed, there's no easier way to do that than to simply drop IGEL OS on your endpoints. You've got a single management control plane for access to all these different clouds, including, of course, Citrix. And by the way, you can use Citrix to access Azure or AWS or any of these clouds. And it's also backward compatible, right? So if you're using legacy products from Citrix and you're moving to the very latest version of the very latest Citrix workspace, any of these technologies can be folded in seamlessly into a single unified endpoint management platform from IGEL. So it's both forward-looking and also backward compatible. We do sell hardware. So a subtle reminder, not so subtle reminder, and I'm not going to go into nauseating detail. Think of this as the family portrait. You got the little kid, you got the middle-aged kid, you got the older kid, you got the parents. You've got from small to large and powerful. Our UV pocket device, you can drop it into any USB slot onto a device and immediately turn it into an IGEL-powered endpoint. It's great for demos, and it's great for contractors, temporary workers, if you want to control what they can do while they're working for you. And then we've got the regular lineup of devices. That UD6 is going end of life because with the UD3 and the UD7, we discovered that you really don't need that device anymore. But they're covered by a 5-year warranty, and it's great hardware. German-built, precision-crafted endpoint devices. So for people who want hardware in addition to our software, they want the whole solution. Maybe they've got they don't need to repurpose a bunch of existing stuff where they save a lot of money. You're more than welcome to look at an IGEL endpoint. It's really great. But the emphasis is on the software, because you drop IGEL OS onto any x86 compatible device with a gigahertz processor, 2 gigabytes of RAM, and that's all you need, as opposed to the 16 to 32 gigabytes you need to run Windows, especially Windows 10. You know, it's a great opportunity to save a lot of money and avoid or delay that dreaded hardware refresh. I mentioned the UD Pocket. Look how small that thing is. This is not, that's a regular sized hand. And that's an IGEL UD Pocket. Drop that into insert it into a USB slot, and you can immediately convert any x86 device compatible gigahertz processor, gigabytes RAM into an Azure powered endpoint. If you go to igel.com, you'll see all kinds of resources, because it almost doesn't matter what I say. What I suggest is listen to our customers. We have a lot of case studies and customer stories. It's kind of a growing community of people who are very, very bullish. And the common theme you'll hear across all these videos is easy. Our interface just makes it incredibly easy to manage and control hundreds or many thousands of endpoints by moving Windows off, dropping it in the data center, using Citrix, and then using our software to manage the endpoint. We've won some interesting new deals. These are just some of them. It turns out that Citrix themselves is running IGEL OS in their call center. And call center is a real common application, right, for virtualized desktops, where you've got different people using the same machine. So we're proud that Citrix is one of our 1,000 customers. So hey, when's the year of VDI? Well, you know, I've been in this business for quite some time, and I stopped using that phrase about 3 years ago, because every year was the year of VDI, and it was growing steadily, but you never knew when it was really happening. And really what's happening now in 2019, it's more the year of cloud. It's more the year of just virtual in general. And that's where we come in, to allow you to access cloud-based virtual services. That cloud could be your own private cloud, which is your data center, or it could be someone like an AWS or a Microsoft Azure. So why now? Why is this the year of cloud? Well, Windows Virtual Desktops is now out there. It is a highly viable desktop as a service available today. 10 years ago, you know, there was a lot of talk about this, but you had all these different interfaces out there, all these different protocols, all these different types of devices. 10 years ago, pretty much data center only. Today we've got cloud out there. There are all kinds of options. The world has changed. 10 years ago it was 100 megabyte LAN, you know, at the office, and now we've got capacity everywhere. We have pretty much, whether it's a coffee shop or an airport, your home, etc. Regardless of my choppy voice here, you do have capacity and the ability for high quality. On the left side, by today, what I'm talking about is all those different interfaces. With Linux on the endpoint, you can basically standardize the management control of all those endpoints, whereas, you know, 10 years ago it was mostly just Windows. The elephant in the room, and kind of the main theme of this session today, is that the end of EOL of Windows 7. We have 62 days left. On January 14th, companies need to move to Windows 10. And believe it or not, 40% of enterprises have yet to do it. They've got 62 days left. By the way, we've stood up a microsite called igel.com/win10 that goes more into the topic. But you know what? If you're losing sleep over this, there is
Dan, I think we lost you.
to keep managing this, because it's such a bear to manage. There's got to be an easier way, and with Citrix and IGEL, for companies, we think we have a much easier solution. If you look at Windows 10 in particular, in terms of the complexity and cost of managing that on hundreds or thousands of endpoints, it's become a real monster for IT teams to manage it. Think of all the updates all the time. You'll see this, right? You fire up your computer, and you look at this for a while. Imagine that happening on hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of endpoints on different times. It's a huge disruption to the enterprise. And if you think about all these, Windows came out, and Microsoft came out and said Windows 10 is our last version. They didn't say that the last version is about 45 different parts, right? So, and by the way, we love Windows, we love Microsoft, we're closely with them. We go up there to the Northwest all the time to meet them. But we just happen to believe for companies, the best place to place Windows is in the data center, where you can basically, as we say, fall in love all over again with Windows. I'm not going to go into nauseating detail on this, but you can see that there are these constant updates, some of which are mostly patches to Windows 10, because it's just become so huge. It's a great operating system, but it does everything. When you do everything, that brings complexity. So one of the P's that we use is passion, and we have a community of followers at IGEL. If you go to igelcommunity.com, you see all kinds of great conversations, great place to meet with birds of a feather. You talk about your experiences, download assets, see upcoming events, news, anything you want to know in the community of IGEL users is there. And a lot of people are also members of the Citrix community. A lot of people on this call may be familiar with the IGEL community already. And we have a lot of very enthusiastic supporters who like to share their ideas. Some even come up with their own cheat sheets and add them to the community. So it's a very, very active and interactive group of folks that we have who are, the common thread is IGEL. And remember, over 90% of our deals are Citrix based. It's a big Citrix kind of flavoring within as well. And people share their experiences. They're very complimentary. I'm not going to, you'll see this out there if you visit the site, but it's a great place to hang out with your peers and share tips and suggestions and stories regarding your implementation of Citrix and IGEL. One nice thing about IGEL, we apply this to our relationship with our partners, including, of course, Citrix, is that our CEO, Jed Ayers, is very big on making sure that we all support each other, right, in a company. He calls it the servant heart axiom, where you disadvantage yourself if necessary to serve your peers, your coworkers, your partners, both reseller, channel partners, and technology partners, and of course your customers. My product marketing team, I've got a team of about 6 people. I tell them, and I do the same, is if a salesperson calls up, or if there's a customer issue or a customer related challenge, drop everything and address it. So it doesn't matter what's due that day, it doesn't matter what you're working on. If this is related to customers and sales, we drop everything. We prioritize, obviously. This is not, ingenious. We prioritize our customers over everything else. Citrix, again, when you talk about this servant heart type of culture, we work more with Citrix than any other of our partners in terms of the ecosystem of virtualized apps, desktops, and workspaces. We had a big patch of land. We bought a big, sponsored a very large exhibit at Synergy. We'll do the same next year with a theater presentation and all kinds of sponsorships, breakout sessions, etc. We send an army of people to the event to support it. It's the biggest event of the year for us, and it just helps to kind of further bolster the partnership that we have with Citrix. This is big to us, right? Really important for us. And by the way, we have a lot of fun. We have a great time as well. So in closing, right, it's real simple, and it's pretty much a replica of Citrix messaging, right? Simple, smart, and secure. Convert any device Flip it over, drop IGEL OS on it. You've now migrated to Windows 10. Voila, it's over, right? You set up your virtual desktops in your data center or get them as a service from the cloud. Drop IGEL OS, just migrated to Windows 10. Imagine how easier that is than standing up Windows 10 on hundreds or many thousands of endpoints. It's smart, save money. Keep your hardware. That hardware's fine. All you need is a gigahertz processor, 2 gigabytes of RAM. Don't go out and spend millions of dollars on new endpoints if you don't need them. By the way, after you drop IGEL OS on your endpoints, they'll probably run another 4 or 5 years without having to update. And by the way, when you drop IGEL OS on it, as soon as you stand it up, you're going to see immediate interaction and end-to-end seamless operation with over 80 plus technology partners, including, of course, Citrix. And then secure. Move Windows into the data center. You've got backup, fault tolerance. You've got your antivirus stuff all running there. It's sequestered in 1 or maybe 2 places if you have a backup data center. And don't worry about that on your endpoints anymore. This really does help IT directors and their endpoint administration staffs much easier. In closing, I also want to mention we have a promotion going on, and everybody on this webcast has an opportunity to drive a Porsche Taycan, to actually win a car. We're going to have a drawing at the end of the year, but that's not far off now, probably about 7 weeks drawing. And you have a chance to be eligible for that drawing by going to ichallengeeverything.com and just use the code word Taycan. This is the all-electric, kind of a software-defined car from Porsche, and we see a little connection between that and the fact that IGEL is all about software-defined endpoints. The other thing I want you guys to know, if you haven't registered already, we have our yearly event. We call that Disrupt. It's in 2 locations. We're having Disrupt in Nashville, Music City there for the North America audience. That's in late January. So all of our partners will be there, customers. It's a great way to get up to date on not only what IGEL's doing, but Citrix and all our other key sponsors at the event. All kinds of great, cool breakout sessions, exhibits, etc. So it's your classic. I hesitate to call it a trade show. It's your classic kind of, symposium where you can kind of rub elbows with people who are using the same technology and learn a lot. And then we're doing the same thing in Europe, in Munich. If you have any plans to be in Europe or you prefer to go to Europe, you're more than welcome to do so in early February at our Munich event. So you're all very much cordially invited. Go to disruptduc.com/Nashville, and you get all the information you need, see what's going to be happening at the event, the guest speakers, register. And that's it. That's the content. Again, working with Citrix, we're really looking at cloud. We see it happening. Certainly, companies will move at their own pace, which is why everything is backward compatible and classic VDI. If that's what you want, that's what you get. But it's also a seamless and simple, easy to control on-ramp for cloud-based services going forward. So with that, that'll conclude the content that I had. I guess we can open it up to questions.
Yes, we do have a few questions that have come in. The first question says, since you're referencing managing IGEL remotely, is there a roadmap to enabling an administrator to VNC to an IGEL device through the cloud gateway?
Yeah, in fact, that's happening right now. So we have a new capability in our latest version of IGEL OS. We call it secure shadowing. So an IGEL operator can basically shadow an endpoint through the cloud gateway function. And actually, if necessary, think of this for like help desk type of applications, take over the device, take over the mouse, and do really in-depth troubleshooting as an operator logged on to the UMS.
Okay, great. Next question, how is printing managed and how does it work from an IGEL device with Windows and with Windows Virtual Desktop?
How is printing managed? I don't know, that may be more of an SE type question. Certainly we work with companies like Printer Logic and others to manage printing, right? With Windows Virtual Desktop, I simply don't know how that works. That's something I can chase down, but I'm not going to stick my neck out too far and try to answer that.
Yeah, I would imagine that the printer can be installed on the IGEL device, connected there somehow, so you could use some sort of client printer redirection mechanism.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is how it works right now, right? So I mean, think of any kind of a classic VDI environment. That's how you handle printing, and you do the redirection to a local printer. So that is done now. It's been done for many years. The part about Windows Virtual Desktop, if you're using that, because that's a DAS-based service, right? Now, so it's a very valid question. I just don't know the answer, because you're getting that as a monthly based service, and you've got your desktop with IGEL OS running on it. I'm assuming that you can still do the redirection out of that service, out of the WVD Azure cloud. But I don't. The question was, how does it work? And I can't answer exactly how that happens. Don't know.
Okay. There was one clarifying question regarding a URL that you had shared. I believe it was igel.com/win10. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. And that's where people can find out more about Windows 10 migration.
Exactly.
Correct?
Yeah. The theme of that page is fall in love with Windows all over again, but it's all about doing so by placing Windows in your data center or cloud. And there's a lot of good information out there on that topic.
Sure. Excellent. Okay, and then there's another question here asking if there's any roadmap for a UMS that's web-based instead of being something that gets installed as a FAT application.
Yeah, there is. That is on the roadmap. I don't know. The first iteration of that might be in the spring, I think, is the first iteration where the top level, if you will, of the interface is web-based. And then you kind of fall into kind of more what we would call the expert mode, which is the current interface. So, and that's actually part of the mechanism by which we'll manage, well beyond 100,000 endpoints, like a web-based wrapper on top. And then as you go through there, you then drop into the familiar interface that so many people are used to. So I'd say be on the lookout. We've got a version of the UMS management coming out. The next version, we'll start seeing that in the product.
Okay, great. We received a comment that the igel.com/win10 URL is not working. So I would say to those who are trying to get to that web page, if you just Google it, I think for me, it was the very first result. So
I just put in a different one that someone supplied that was igel.com/page/win10/migrate. I don't know if that's the same thing.
Don't know either. I mean, I could break out of my screen sharing and take a look.
I found the URL. I'll just post it in the comments and send to everybody here.
Then I'll fix that. I'll fix that particular URL on that slide then too. Thanks.
Okay. Excellent. I guess I will just add that as an IGEL customer and the IT director that you referenced in your presentation, that I can attest to how well some of this stuff works. I mean, we're a healthcare organization here, and we've got a lot of doctors and nurses and health assistants who are roaming all over the place to different exam rooms and other areas of the clinic. And we had been deploying a lot of Windows-based devices, and for some of the same reasons you discussed, for example, turning on a laptop and Windows 10 updates are happening was a real problem. and then in addition to that, some of the costs associated with the devices that the doctors wanted, it was pretty significant. And so what we've managed to do is we have now hundreds of IGEL endpoints, like the UD2 model, throughout our clinics. And then for the doctors, we're buying commodity grade laptops that only cost a few $100s and loading the IGEL OS on those, and it takes it right to like a kiosk mode where they can log into our Citrix NetScaler gateway. And what we've done is kind of like what you said, is we've removed a lot of that unplanned work out of the system to where the clinical staff are not running into problems with Windows updates, or they might do something where they turn off the wireless switch accidentally, or they're trying to use the device in a way it wasn't intended, or what have you. And a lot of that unplanned work is now out of the system. And the patching piece for not only the applications that are loaded on there, but also the OS is all gone completely. And so the result is we're spending less money per endpoint, and our staff are more productive and happier with their user experience because it's very predictable and very consistent.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Good point. In fact, and certainly we work with Imprivata and all the kind of healthcare related members of the ecosystem. The other anecdotal feedback that we got from a hospital is that for their workstations on wheels, where you typically have a Windows-based device on there, as you're moving that around, it's all being fed by a battery on that device, right? And a lot of hospitals, one hospital in particular, said that they've extended the battery life on their workstations on wheels by more than 2x by replacing Windows with IGEL OS. Same device, right? Same laptop or same computer, but by taking Windows off and dropping IGEL OS on, those workstations on wheels now can last much longer between recharges, which in itself is, there's savings associated with that as well.
Yep, excellent.
Yeah. One other comment I'd like to make, I don't think we've gotten a question about it, but we have had a few people come to us saying, what's with this rumor that IGEL is getting out of the hardware business? And two things have caused the rumor. Number one is we admittedly indexed heavily on the software message. That's where all the visible and intrinsic value comes from the technology. And we also think that maybe one of our hardware rivals might be spreading that rumor around, but by all means, we're going to continue to build great endpoints, right? The UD2 came out this year, early in the spring, killer, low, economical device. It's great for most use cases. We're going to have a new version of the UD3 that we'll announce. That'll be coming out. Stay tuned for that in the disrupt timeframe, which will be great for just about any use case you imagine. All the latest interfaces, supporting multiple HD displays, like the latest USB, etc. So we are by all means continuing to build out and continue to offer world-class hardware in addition to the software. So no truth to that rumor.
Great. Well, that seems to conclude all the questions that we have.
Okay.
All right, well, then I just have a couple of things to carry us out. Let me grab the screen back real quickly. All right, I threw a couple of links in the chat for you all. It's first of all, I think I have the right one out there now, the second IGEL link. And Dan, if you want to check it really quickly while I'm going through this. So also I have a link to our survey. It's like I said, it's short and anonymous. And then also a link to our events calendar. It has all of our events, including upcoming webinars, CUGC local meetings all around the world. And then, we have our large Excel meetings throughout the year. We don't have any on the calendar quite yet, but we are setting those for 2020. So you can keep an eye out there for those. Also, make sure you visit mycugc.org, check out our discussion forums. If you have questions, there are people who have answers. So we do encourage you to go out there and seek advice, or maybe even give advice to your peers. And you can read our blogs. We have lots of great blog articles contributed from the CTP and CTA communities, as well as our everyday members who aren't part of the CTA and CTP communities. Lots of people contribute to the blogs, so check those out. And finally, if you opted in at registration for a chance to win a $150 Amazon gift card from IGEL, we will choose that winner at random offline, and we will notify you, and we will post that winner on Twitter. So be sure to follow us at MyCUGC on Twitter to find out who won the gift card. And Dan, oh, he says the link is correct. So there you go. I'll make sure, Dan, I'll put that in the follow-up email as well. So it's the second one, the Win10 index.
Yes, exactly. Win10/index.
Okay, I'll make sure I put that in your follow-up.
Yeah, I think the reason that may have happened is we are going to be coming out soon with a new website. So there's things are kind of, a few little things are kind of happening on the current site to help, help with that effort, and that might be one of those things that happen there. So anyway, yeah.
Well, I'll put that in the follow-up email, so you'll get that again tomorrow, just in case you misplace it. So everyone will have that.
Right.
And I think with that, we are all set. Let's see, I have a question from Brian about at CUGC or at CUGC City. I don't know, on Twitter. It's at, here, I'll put it in. It's at my CUGC on Twitter. That's where you can find us. Some of our local groups do have their own Twitter accounts, not all of them. Some of them are more active than others. So if you follow the main CUGC Twitter account, that is the best way to stay up to date. We're also on LinkedIn. We post a lot there as well, so be sure to follow us there. All right, well, thank you so much, Dan, and thank you, Steve. Thanks to both of you for being with us today, and thanks to everyone for attending. Great to have you with us.
I appreciate the opportunity, and yeah, thanks everyone for listening in. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your day, and we'll see you on mycugc.org soon. Bye, everyone.
Great, bye.